Our reading this morning is from the book of Genesis chapter 25, and this is another story of two brothers. It's been only a week that we talked about two brothers from the book of Genesis 4, and does it occur to you anything about the two brothers, Cain and Abel, right? Cain and Abel, were they getting along with each other? Oh, yes. Oh, maybe for Abel, but not for Cain. So Cain, he got really jealous of Abel, and he ended up killing his own brother. And we saw that how that spoke to the relationship between truth, faith, and charity. And in fact, Cain more represents our own understanding. This is our crooked faith system that we kind of crafted for ourselves. So that's not good faith. And that ended up, I don't care about charity. There's no place in me. That's what happened. And we have another story of two brothers. And this is from chapter 25. And it is a story about Esau and Jacob. And Esau and Jacob, there are two sons from Isaac and Rebekah. And so there's a lineage that's coming down from Abraham down to Isaac, and now down to Esau and Jacob. This is a genealogy of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begot Isaac. Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah as his wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Syrian of Padan Aram, and the sister of Laban, the Syrian. Now Isaac pleaded with the Lord for his wife because she was barren. And the Lord granted his plea, and Rebekah, his wife, conceived. But the children struggled together within her, and she said, "If everything is well, why am I like this?" So she went to inquire of the Lord, and the Lord said to her, "Two nations are in your womb. Two people shall be separated from your body. One people shall be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger." So when her days were fulfilled for her to give birth, indeed there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red. He was like a hairy garment all over, so they called his name Esau. Afterward, his brother came out, and his hand, this is the fun part, his hand took hold of Esau's heel. So his name was called Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when she bore them. So the boys grew, and Esau was a skillful hunter, a man of the field, but Jacob was a mild man dwelling in tents. Let's talk about twin. Did you know that I have a twin brother? Yes, I am a twin. I'm the younger brother by only 1 minute difference. And that means my brother is older than I am only by 1 minute. It's because my mother had a cesarean section. What is section? Yes, section to give birth to us twin. And that was why our birth time were so close. And jokingly, I used to say that I was like Jacob. I was the second son, but I wanted to be the first. And probably I was probably taking hold of his heel as I was being born. We were that close. And my brother and I fought a lot growing up. I was young, so my twin brothers was. Maybe it was because I'm Asian, and so I watched a lot of Jackie Chan movies, and I thought, it's kind of cool to be physical with with others and punching at each other. And I went through that a lot with him. I had such a lot of memories on that too. But in all seriousness, I actually had a hard time taking the fact that I was younger anyway, because of that 1 minute. And I didn't accept it until I turned about 20. And you probably aren't really following me here, because why is it that hard? Because it has to do with my Asian culture. Even if he is 1 minute older than I am, I do need to respect him as the proper older brother. So it was really hard for me. But once I became like 20-something, I accepted that. And ever since that, it's been fine. You know, he's been my older brother by 1 minute. And that's why I love the story of Esau and Jacob. They're twin brothers, and they clash with each other. And that clashing part may not stand out in our reading today, but it becomes clearer a couple of chapters later in chapter 27 and further. And this time, who is the troublemaker? It is Jacob, the younger. Last Sunday, the older. And Jacob wants Esau's birthright as the first son. Then what is the birthright? Why does it matter to Jacob so much? It's because it is a privilege. It could give you a lot of privilege. Back then, if you're the first son, that means you are going to inherit your father's land and property. Oh, that's a really big deal back then. And also in the biblical context, you are going to get all the good blessings. Abraham had a wonderful vision and blessing promised to him, and it came down to Isaac. And now that is going to go to who? The first son. And it was supposed to be Esau, and it's Jacob who becomes jealous of that. So Jacob wants it so badly that he ends up doing something bad. He deceives his older brother, and he even lies to his father, Isaac, to steal that birthright. And we're going to talk about that next week more. But eventually Esau figures that out, and when he does, he becomes furious with Jacob, and he wants Jacob to be dead. So now we can see, these two brothers struggling with each other, even in their mother's womb. It's going to build up. That tension, that clash is going to build up later in the story. And we are told that, again, they were struggling together in the mother's womb. And let's think from Rebecca's perspective. So she had a baby. She thought she had a baby, and but she felt something struggling within her belly. Is it normal? Like something is like there's too much going on, but she didn't know that she had twin yet, and so she asked the Lord, "What is it? What is this about?" And this is what the Lord tells her: 2 nations, referring to Esau and Jacob, are in your womb. 2 people shall be separated from your body. 1 people shall be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger. In the end, Jacob and Esau, or Esau and Jacob, they become 2 different nations. The nation Edom is from Esau, and Israel is from Jacob. So that becomes true. But did you notice the part where of the 2 brothers, it is going to be the younger brother who is going to be served by the older? I don't think that's fair, even by 1 minute, maybe. And in fact, that order is inverted order. That Jacob is served by Esau, that is not the proper order, but that is inverted order, and it is permitted, and it is needed, the time, and for our life too. So the two brothers' story is about who is first, who goes first. And the basic framework to have for the story is that the relationship of Jacob and Esau is that of truth and goodness. And Esau and Jacob represent something of church. They were born of Isaac and Rebekah. So they are of something of church. Jacob, truth. Esau, goodness. And now it is Jacob or truth that is meant to have the lead before Esau. Then why do we say ever truth first, when in fact goodness or charity should be the first? Why is it? Why do you care about truth? One of the simple way of looking at is we really can't do anything useful until we know how a thing works. I'm gonna grab that guitar, and Ralph might recognize this guitar. Look at this guitar. Yeah, it looks a fine guitar. And I knew that there's a thing like this guitar, and I could have. And it's actually I've taken it over from Ralph, and this is one of Ralph's son's guitar, and he's given it away. And I thought, oh wow, there's such a thing like guitar, and it's going to be pretty wonderful if I could play the guitar. It's going to be wonderful. Maybe if I could play guitar for our Sunday services. Oh, that sounds amazing, right? But it's been months that I have not touched. I have the intention, I got the good feeling about this, but up until I actually know how to play that guitar, I really can't do much with it. It doesn't matter how good intention I have about that, it really doesn't count. I can just stare at the guitar and pray that something wonderful can happen. For me, when I'm not learning how to play it, yes, good luck with that. And there are so many examples like this. What about making friends? You know, making friends sound to be easy, but it does need work. It is a socializing skill that we need to learn at least. We need to know how to behave. We need to know how to listen. We need to know how to be patient with other people, other friends, when they are not really saying that I like. And it's about knowing and learning how to build trust. And that same applies to every kind of relationship, including marriage and student, teachers, and etc. It is everything we do is about a skill to learn. And the list can go on. So the bottom line is that we first need to learn about anything whatsoever to be actually able to do anything with it. That's the first step. And we can square that with why Jacob as truth gets the priority first and for a time, not forever. If we want to be a good person, or if we desire a better version of who we are, and if we want our life to see more wonderful things down in the road, If that's our desire, then we first should know that there is such a thing. There's such a wonderful thing of life that we can pursue and learn about. And then we can have a clear vision of who we want to be. And then we can envision, more specifically, how we can be that person. So it comes down to getting to know about what is it all about. And I would say the source of learning is also important, right? We can listen to our friends. We can listen to some podcasts on YouTube. Oh, they might be helpful. But I think we gathered here because we want to hear from the Lord, right? I think if we really want to learn about our life, especially about our spiritual life, I think we want to hear from the Lord. I've got a passage that I have not read from the order of service, and I'm going to read a passage. And this is from the New Jerusalem and its Heavenly Doctrine 177. And this passage emphasized the need of learning about our spiritual life, not from any other source, but from the Lord and His Word. We cannot be regenerated or reborn unless we know the kind of teachings that lead us to a new life, a spiritual life. What we must be taught in order to gain a new spiritual life are the truths that we need to believe and the good things we need to do. The truths that need to become part of our faith and the good actions that need to become part of our life of charity. And there's no way any of us can know this on our own, because all we take in is what strikes, what speaks to our senses. From this input, we gain the light that is called earthly or natural, which makes it possible for us to see only what has to do with the world and with ourselves. It shows us nothing that has to do with heaven or with God. This we must learn from revelation, that is from the Lord's Word and His teachings. So here's the final piece. Jacob's taking the lead as truth. When we look at the story in a wider range of reading from Scripture, this part is so crucial to understand and grapple with. We could trace back some of the stories that we've seen in the past month, such as the story of Adam and Eve, and then what it means that they ate of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. How about the story of Cain and Abel? We just saw that last Sunday. And that is, we can read that as the direct ramification of what Adam and Eve did. What about the story of Noah? What about the story of Tower of Babel? All of those stories show us how we've gradually lost sight of what is truly good for us, good for our spiritual life. Those stories are about how we've lost our perception of what is truly good. And the simple learning for today is that we are going to find times when we must start with learning truth and living by it first, like learning how to play guitar and play. There are times where it becomes more urgent to know first what is that we want, whether it is really good or not for us, and if it is actually good, then how to do it and how to get there. And sometimes that is where Jacob cuts in. Jacob cuts in and takes the lead. It may be uncomfortable. Certainly it happened, because that made Esau so angry as to wish to kill Jacob. But we can understand that that's where we begin for a time, until we finally know what we are actually trying to do. Amen.